Welcome to Brain Break. I'm Lloyd James, and this is where we uncover real stories of people who are changing the game. No surface level stories, just raw, honest conversations about the challenges they have faced and what truly shaped them to be what they are today. Let's get into today's episode. Nian, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Honestly, it's you were one of the first people that hounded me to kind of go, can I come onto the Brain Breaks podcast? And I was genuinely so excited when you said, yeah, when you were hounding me. And I genuinely like that because it just means that obviously you're eager to come on, but you've got probably a story to share. Before we start, can you just give the listeners, the viewers, an introduction as to who you are, where you come from, and what is your fundamental story from where you grew up?
I'm Nian Cha. I'm 25 at the moment. I have always kind of been interested in pursuing business. Since as long as I can remember, I've never really wanted to have a job. And that kind of all started when I was about to finish school. I was doing my exams. And then I was really into the gym, so I was inquiring at being a PT would be a great way to make money while I'm at uni. And then I got a text saying it's a half price course, so I was like, right, let's do it, let's run it up. So that was the first step. So I became a PT over the holidays between year 12 and uni, and then I got a job the day after I graduated, which I thought was great at the time, but I think it's quite common now that I've been in the industry for a while. Started working as a PT, was studying biomedical science because the dream. See, even back then, I didn't want a job, but I wanted to be a doctor, but kind of have my own practice and such. So I was studying biomedical science, like the classic pre-med pathway, and then about probably 6 months before I graduated, in my last year, I started seeing online coaching and people becoming online coaches from PT. So I messaged a few people that I knew of had gone and done it, and they put me in connections with the right people that helped them out. I started that over the last semester of my degree, and then I was like, right, now I'm doing my business thing. I really don't want to go back and do 4 years of study and then work and slog and climb the ladder. Let me just give this a year to see how it goes.
Yeah.
Went pretty well. So then I've not looked back since. So that was back in 2021. I started the online coaching, and then at the end of 2021, I was like, oh, I'll give it a year. And I think we're 4 years later now. So yeah, it's been going okay. A few ups, downs, twists, and turns as always. You don't foresee them, but they're always bound to happen. But yeah, that's kind of the synopsis of my story of where I'm at the moment.
I love that. That's a great introduction. It just gives us a really good overview as to, your career pathway of what you've done. And that's just a really brief vision that you've just given us. But I want to take us back a little bit more.
Go for it.
I want to know a little bit more about your background.
Okay.
Where were you born, and what sort of background are you from? What sort of childhood did you have growing up?
I was born in northwest London in a place called Hillingdon. So I grew up there until just before I turned 9. So September or October 2008, my family moved out to Perth. So growing up in the UK around the early 2000s, I reminisce about it quite a lot. I think it was quite a good time to be a kid because you were just at that age before, like, kids now, like, technology's from like the day you're born. Whereas we didn't have that. Like, as I got a bit older, we'd have like the DS, we'd obviously have like TV and such, but it wasn't like in your face all the time. So we still got a little bit of that. I suppose it's analog, like, non-digital.
Absolutely.
So that was quite nice. My family background, so it's a bit all over the place. So, like, ethnically Indian, but both my parents were born in Nairobi in Kenya. They both moved to London. I think my mum moved to Manchester first. My dad moved to London. They met in London and they got married and whatnot. So I was obviously born there and then moved to Australia. So as far back as I know, like it's like four countries, four continents now, and we'll see where we're at next. You know?
That's incredible. So born in the UK,
Yeah.
and so you've just lived in the UK and then Australia. Have you lived anywhere else?
Nowhere else long term. No.
Okay.
No, yeah.
And so obviously living in, let's focus on the London bit a little bit more. So obviously I'm from the UK as well, from the Suffolk Essex border, and I've call it recently moved over, but it's now 10, 11 years ago. It's quite a few years now you think about it. But so when you were at school,
yeah,
London is very multicultural, lots of diversity happening there. What was that like at school for you growing up?
It was very different to what it was like here. Back in the UK, I'd probably not even considered anything about like culture and race and whatnot. Like it was just like it was a mix of people, a mix of kids in school. You know, you'd have like white kids, black kids, brown kids. You know, you'd have a whole bunch of different people. When we moved here, 2008, my family was like one of the only like non-white families in the school. So that's when I started to kind of notice it as an actual thing. It was nothing too bad. It was, you know, but yeah, it was. I quite liked it. I think I compare myself now to people who grew up around that like proper like immersed in that multicultural, and they probably have a little bit more ties to the traditional side of things as opposed to me. But it's just one of those things. Like you're just a product of your environment. You know, you kind of pick up what you're around and what you're immersed in.
Have you been back to the UK since?
I've been back a few times. Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
I really don't like it. So before I ever went back, I think I said we moved in 2008, and the first time I went back would have been 2014. So between 2008 and 14, I really wanted to go back. I only wanted to go back. I missed it so much there. Then the first time I went back, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. It's not phenomenal, but it's still home, you know? Then I think I've been back 4 times in total, including that first time. And every time I go and come back here, I'm more and more grateful for Perth, and more like, right, that I'm so glad like my dad and my mum moved out here when I was young, as opposed to staying there. Just the space you get, the weather is huge. Like the weather's a massive deal. I think the people as well. Like I find the people here, and I noticed this more when I went recently. I went for 3 months about a year and a half ago. To the longest stint I've been there since I left. The people here are way more like friendly. Everyone there's kind of like in their own world, and like on their own mission, you know, which is great. But everyone here is a little bit more like, you know, you go for a walk, you make eye contact with someone.
There's a good morning, isn't it?
There's a good morning. It's not.
Whereas
like,
in London, it's kind of get on the tube, get in from A to B, keep your head down, off you go, right?
Literally, yeah, literally. So yeah, I definitely much prefer it here, as opposed to London for sure.
You mentioned about you got a bit of an entrepreneurial background, right? So this has kind of you realize that just after school period. But what I want to know is, where did that entrepreneurial, if I can get the word out properly, background come from? Tell me a bit more about your parents. Did they have businesses in the UK? What was the leap between, obviously they came from London to Perth, you know, that's a big jump. How did they run a business? What did that look like for you and your family?
My dad and his siblings have always been in business. So like I never met my dad's dad because he passed away before I was born. But from what I've heard, he had a business in Kenya where I think he was selling textiles off his bike.
Wow.
Yeah.
Off his bike. Okay.
Yeah.
In Kenya. So yeah, right. So I'm imagining a bike and just full of textiles and on a moped sort of thing or whatever.
This is like the early 1900s. Yeah. Yeah. So like this is
whatever bike that may look like.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what that's the story. Then all of my dad and all of his siblings have all had their own various businesses, you know. So in the UK, my dad had a hardware store that he built up and ran for 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so he had a business, 1 or 2 business partners who would run it with him.
So he would have been quite a well-known man in London.
Yeah, so like a good story I like to tell is when we went in 2016, it was on a high street. Yeah, it was a high street shop, and like the house we had was above the shop. Yeah. So we went back, we saw the business partner, we saw the shop and everything. And just walking down the street, he would get like this is like 10, maybe 8 years later after leaving, people would be like, oh, Ash, how you going? Long time no see. And and it's like,
No way.
after 30 years of doing business, I suppose that's kind of the result.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. And then I've always been, a huge advocate for like your connections are your wealth.
Absolutely.
Right. So, and I think that those connections, no matter whether you made a connection fresh from today or whether it's from the past, they always kind of linger around as long as you keep that sort of good relationship with them. Right.
Yeah.
So you've now settled in Australia.
Yep.
And you started going to school.
Yep.
Now, can you talk to me a little bit more about what happened at school in regards to you tried to pursue football?
Yeah.
And you got a 96 ATAR?
Okay, all right.
What's happening here?
So it would have been year 9, year 10. I'm football obsessed, like absolutely obsessed. Playing football, like I would read like books on tactics and history and whatnot. And all I really wanted, like I knew I wasn't, like I wanted to be a player, but I kind of knew I was like, all right, you're 15 now. If you're going to be a player, probably something would have happened by now. So I was like, right, I can get into, the management side or the working around the team side of things. So then I left school at the end of year 10. I saw this opportunity. It was called Cedar. So it might be, I think it's grown quite a bit since I went. I think I was only the second or third year of students there. And they were like tied to Perth Glory, and I was like, oh, this is brilliant, I can go pursue it. So I went there. I lasted 1 semester there because I realized pretty quickly, I was like, right, this is not what I thought it was going to be.
You just thought it was going to play football all day, didn't you?
I thought I was going to play football all day. I thought I was going to be around like professionals and learning how to like be in the industry.
Yeah.
But it was really just a alternative method of school with a lot less structure. So I was just a bit like, well, if I'm going to do school, I'd rather just do school than do like not school, but school,
Yeah, I totally understand. I've got a good friend of mine, Joe. He's a Cedar teacher.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he does his football and AFL, and so I'm very much aware of the setup and everything else. It might have changed since you went there.
I'm sure there's
got more structure to it. But you're right in the sense that like it's still school. You still got to have the core fundamentals of doing your different general courses or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
But they just tie in that sporting element into it. So can't comment on when you went, but I know that now. I'm sure it would have evolved and adapted with time.
Like I said, I was only the second or third year there.
You know, so it was still testing the waters. A bit like Brain Break was testing the water and seeing the setup's a bit different to the first interview, but we just, you just got to evolve, right, with time.
Yeah.
So your football career, right? So you realised that wasn't for you.
Yeah.
So then you went back to school?
Yeah, I went back to school. So I would have gone back in the second semester of year 11. And I was like, right, well, let's make the best of the situation. Before I left school, I really didn't like school at all. I'd always get like, doesn't apply himself like on my reports. That was the constant comment I'd get from all teachers, getting so much trouble.
Doesn't apply himself.
Yeah, always. Yeah. But because I wasn't engaged, I didn't see the point in it. And then when I left school, I came back. I was like, right, I'm actually here by choice now. Like I did leave and I chose to come back. So why don't I make the most of it? So then obviously put my head down, did quite well.
And you're pretty brainy for 96. Is it? I'm not all up with this all 96 ATAR, but 96 ATAR is pretty big. It's pretty good. Producer Riley, 96. You were an ATAR kid, weren't you? Yeah. What 96 pretty good? Is it very good? Like it's basically scored out of 100, isn't it? You got to remember, I'm a woodwork teacher, so we don't. I mean, I never went down the ATAR route, but
as you get to the top, they give away less and less scores in those conditions. So like, there's a lot more kids that say it's 70 ATAR. They're not the same amount of kids that have a 96 ATAR that have a 70 ATAR.
Okay, so you were up there with 96.
Yeah, I mean, it was just study, isn't it? Like it is what it is.
Well, mate, that's a pretty good score to me.
Yeah.
So, okay. Then after that was year 12, correct?
That was year 12. So after that, that's when I started doing my PT course. Started working in gyms. I started off doing PT at a Plus Fitness. And then I started uni. Then I moved to a different Plus Fitness where I did group fitness and PT, and then ended up becoming the manager there. So I started doing office work, and the manager left, so I took over that there as well.
But what did that look like though? So from year 12 and getting that PT certificate, right? So you've gone from football to back to school to now being a PT. So you're still in that sort of fitness industry,
Yeah.
realizing that maybe your career in football for playing for Manchester United is not going to happen, right? So you decided to become a PT.
Yeah.
What challenges did you face when you were training to become a PT? Do you remember any difficult times?
To be honest, no. Like
Not with a 96 ATAR. Of course, there was no challenges.
no,
of course.
no, that not like that, but more so like and I think other PTs will agree with me. Like if you've done the course, it's not very it's how do I say this? It's not a challenge to do to do the course. It's probably like I found I learned more about being a PT, actually working as a PT, than the course itself. Like the course itself,
Practical. You were more a practical person.
yeah. Like I found that I didn't learn a great deal on the course. It was more just like memorizing information about muscles and health regulations and how to take like a physical exam. Like, but you like if I don't know if you ever been with a PT, you don't do.
I've tried.
Yeah, you don't do a physical.
I'll
exam.
get it for free. You know, when you go sign up, you get
Yeah,
free
yeah,
PT sessions.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they're like, "Do you want to sign up with me?" And I'm
Try and guilt you into buying something. Yeah.
That's exactly right. I've been there. I politely declined every single time, and but so you know, I want to tie in a little bit of like you're saying about the science aspect of things.
Yeah.
And you're mentioning about the body, how it reacts, how it works, and how we utilize our body in a physical exercise element. Is that because of you had a passion that potentially you wanted to become a doctor?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was because I did all the human bio like units in year 12, and then I was going to uni to do anatomy, human biology, and physiology. So I was like, a lot of that's going to cover over into the not necessarily the technical aspects of training, but the behind the scenes, what's going on inside of you, you know, as a result of training and nutrition. Which is probably why the course material wasn't super like confronting to me, because I was like, well, I've kind of seen a lot of it already. And then the things I probably struggled the most with was like the like not the HR stuff, but like the boring admin type stuff, like that
everyone needs to do.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that type of stuff. That's what I struggled with. Because I was just like, I just want to do what I want to do. Like I want to go and like I want to go train. I want to go coach people. I'm not worried about, you know, assessing for risks.
Sure.
You know, like it's the boring stuff, but I guess everyone has to do it. But yeah, that's probably why I leaned into PT more. I also like, I love going to the gym. I'd go to the gym like 5-6 times a week. I was going to say a day, no, a week. And I would like track all my food. I was super, super, super like diligent and dedicated with all of that stuff. Around that school uni time. So I was like, right, this is really cool. I was a chubby kid as well, so I lost tons of weight. Put on a bit of size, built my confidence up, and I was like, right, if I can help people do that as well, make some money off it while I'm studying, I'm just winning across the board.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what made me want to get into it. Yeah.
And your online PT business took off, right?
Yeah,
it did pretty well. So did you see a gap in the market? Like, how did you go from PTing people face to face, I presume?
Yeah.
To then thinking, okay, let's go online. So how did you go about that transition?
Well, the reason why I wanted to move into online was because I was a PT for about 3 years at that point, and very rarely would I get like the result that I was talking about, where it's like you see a client lose weight, build muscle, improve confidence, like that life-changing type result.
Mm-hmm.
And then I figured out it's not because I was not a very good PT, but it was because like you might come to do your half an hour session once a week, but then once you go, I don't know what you're doing. You know, I don't know if you're coming to the gym after that or between that.
It's hard to track, right?
Impossible.
And
yeah.
It's one of those things that you put a lot of trust in the client.
Yeah.
And then you hope that they're going to follow through with what you've given them, because I presume you put all the research into that specific program for that specific person.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if they don't turn up and they don't do what you've suggested that they need to do, they're not going to see the results. That must have been challenging for you, right?
It was a bit frustrating.
Frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's like, well, like I'm telling you what to do. I can't lift the weights for you. I can't eat
That's right.
for you, you know? So that was probably one of the main reasons. But then it was also like, I wanted to go, I was doing this all through the scope of like, I want to go and study medicine, which is very time intensive and, you know, challenging. So I didn't want to have my income tied to my time. And that's, again, like the entrepreneurial side kicking in as well. Like I didn't want to be like, well, I'm only going to make enough money if I commit 20 hours a week to PT, you know? So then I started.
Because that's all it was, 20 hours, 20 hours a week. But then how many clients would you have in that 20 hours?
I don't know. Because I was, so if I was doing 20 hours of PT, I'd probably have like 20.
Would that be 20
to 30 sessions? Yeah. So some clients would do 2 or 3 sessions a week.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
So
but it can be quite a lucrative industry though, if you get it right.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, especially now that online coaching is common. Like back in 2018, 19, it wasn't. And then obviously COVID is what blew it up. So then around that time, 2020, when all the gyms closed and I couldn't earn any money. I didn't need, like, I was still a student, still living at home. I didn't need a great deal of money, but it was like I was earning a decent amount for a uni kid to nothing. And I was like, well, what is this about? So then I started to speak to other coaches who had gone from PT to online. And I kind of asked them, I was like, so what's the difference? And they're like, well, look, instead of just seeing them for half an hour a week, you're kind of like, you've got them for the whole week because you're delivering it all into their pocket, into their phone. You know, you're offering that support around the clock. And I was like, all right, cool, let's give it a shot. So then I worked with a mentor who helped me out quite a lot to like build and start the online side.
So how old were you then when you started, considering or getting a mentor to help you?
20.
So how did you, at the age of 20, you knew that you needed a mentor to help you.
Yeah.
Is that how you felt? Like, did you know you needed someone to help you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was like,
so that's different. The way I'm interpreting that is that when I was 20, I always knew that I was going to run multiple businesses, but I never really thought of going down the route of, I need a mentor. I thought to myself, I need to work it out as I go along.
Yeah.
Right? What is it, because of perhaps your background, seeing your parents have multiple businesses? Did they have mentors to help them? How did you know a mentor would how did you know how to choose the right mentor, number one? And two, like, how do you know that was the right choice in your gut?
It was, no, that's a good question. My parents didn't have mentors because it was all family. So like my dad's mentor would have been his older brother, for example. I spoke to a few coaches who'd work with the guy to kind of vet him out, because I was quite skeptical. I'm like, if this guy's just going to tell me to run paid ads, what's the point? So I was quite skeptical. So I did a bit of research and due diligence on like not just this specific mentor, but fitness mentoring in general. And I was like, if I could just cut out all the mistakes I might make and work with someone who's made them themselves already, you pay for it. Like,
but that's a smart move. What you've just said there is smart, because I think if anyone wants to be able to see a success in a business they want to build and scale, now it makes sense. I mean, I'm 37 going on 38. It's only really in the last sort of 4 to 5 years I realised, yes, maybe to help me scale something a bit quicker is to get someone that's kind of been there, done that, and sort of gone, don't do this, don't do that, because the mistakes, and rather trying to work it out and do a mistake, and then it sort of sets you 10 steps back, and then you take 2 steps forward and all that kind of thing. So for you to think of that at the age of 20, I think that's pretty smart. I don't think that a lot of other people would have considered that. But was that an initial, the financial outlay? That would have been pretty expensive, right? Because you were still at uni then.
I was, yeah.
So how did you, financially, how did you know that was going to potentially be a good investment?
I backed myself like I was very much, I'm slightly different now. I was very much like there's nothing I can't do, like I
bold,
very much so. Like,
I like it.
Yeah, like I very much would back myself in most things. I'd be like, well, look, if so and so can do it, and respectfully, I know my levels, so can I. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
I think that's a great mindset to have, because there's an element of like you trying to, well, you're backing yourself, but at the same time, you must be challenging yourself at the same time, because if you don't know something, you're going to go out of the way to learn it and to become better at that particular thing.
I'm a very annoying student to have, because I'll just say why, like, why do we do this? Why not that? And that kind of helps me understand things better, because if you're the mentor you're saying this is the right thing to do, and I'm telling you, well, why? I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm saying why. Then you have to explain it to me, so then I don't just copy, I understand why you're telling me to do it.
So don't just follow instructions, ask for the theory behind it as well.
The principles, yeah. I've always found that is like, that's kind of, I've always been that why, and it's always helped me understand the the underlying reason, because you might do things a very specific way and someone else might have a similar outcome and do it a different way, but the principle is the same.
Yes.
You know, and your way might not work exactly for me, but if I can understand the principle you're embodying, then I can do it in my own way, and then it's still original. You know, it's still me doing it. It's not just a Lloyd clone, for example.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
And so when you were building your online business, what did the marketing look like for that? Did you come up with a blueprint? Did the mentor help you? We want to try and really understand, like, how did you overcome those potential problems, or did you see a gap? How did you decide to market yourself in the online PT world? Because it's quite a saturated market.
Yeah.
So what did you go and do to stand out from the crowd?
Again, I was just me. Like, I just tried to do everything with like, I'd listen to what they'd say and I'd say, all right, well, how can I put my own spin on it? So like to give like a like an overview would be, I had to start sharing client results, obviously, you know. So, and as I said before, as a PT, I didn't get a lot of those like before and after, like 10 kilos down, because people are coming, they're going, they're not doing what they need to do. So I'd be like, right, well, how can I do this? So I'd do like testimonials with clients, you know, who enjoyed working with me, but maybe they weren't as committed as I would have liked them to be. So it's then they're still getting the message of what working with me is like. Then it was like, right, well, I need to explain the information that I stand for, because back, like, Instagram's changed now to what it is.
Changes every week these days.
Exactly. But like, if you think about, if you imagine what Instagram was like in 2021 versus now, it's a big difference. So it was a lot of like information back then, you know, as opposed to, I think now it's a lot more entertainment based. But information was that was sweet for me, because I was at uni, I was studying these things in far more depth than what you need to explain as a PT. So I could because I understood the principle of what happens when you lose weight and what happens when you lift weights and grow muscle. I could explain it in a simple way that people could understand. So that was kind of like the first kind of how I broke into the market. And then as I got a little bit more established and, you know, had a consistent flow of clients, a consistent business, I just started traveling. I was like, right, well, let me see, how can I niche this a little bit further? And then I was like, right, South Asian market, you know, untouched in terms of fitness. In Perth, fitness, completely untouched. So I was like, right, I could do a really good job here, and it also ties into my message as well. Yep. Having grown up as like that South Asian kid who was eating the traditional food and got overweight because of it, you know, then had to kind of figure things out for myself, like cook my own meals, which is like unheard of in a South Asian household, you know. Start going to the gym again, like fitness and training and such. As I think now it's a lot better, but back, like, from my parents' generation, it was a bit stigmatized. So a lot of people would have been were in the same boat as me. So when I started speaking to that message, I got a great reception.
I was going to say, that's so smart, like that South Asian, category, or that clientele that you're trying to, target and trying to niche down onto. Very, very smart thinking that. And what, you were still in your early 20s trying to work that bit out.
I was probably 20. I probably was 22. Yeah, 22.
And what was the reaction like from people when you started like targeting that particular audience?
I did pretty well. Yeah, I did really well. Like I worked with, I wasn't counting like South Asian client none, but I worked with quite a lot of South Asian clients around Perth, and, you know, even some over east and some in Kenya and the UK, which was great. You know, I absolutely loved it. And I think I got I'm really happy with the results. One thing I would have said before is the results that I got from clients is some coaches look at them and are like, oh, what's that? You know, it's not like pulling the skin off the abs type photo shoot pic. But I'm helping mums and dads, you know, like people who have never set foot in a gym before, lose 10, 15 kilos and keep it off for a year, you know, like.
And those clients stayed with you for long periods of time?
Absolutely, yeah.
So how do you make sure you keep them engaged and motivated for that long? Because I find that a lot of clients will have a short attention span, and I think that is just due to how we're conditioned with social media. You know, we're just kind of, that doesn't work, move on. I get that. But at the same time, it's like, if that doesn't work with someone to suss out what the problem is, come up with the solution, and work at it again, right? So was there any situations where you found that were quite difficult and you thought, what are the challenges you have faced when you were building, or you were at the peak of your online success, although that's what everyone's seeing it as, success from the outside, but internally, what sort of struggles were you potentially facing?
Oh, there's loads, man. Like there's loads. I probably the biggest struggle that I found was, especially as I niched into South Asian more. Like I'm quite westernized, like I get called a coconut. Yeah. Like that's fine. I'll hold the allegations, but like I eat Western food, I sound like this,
Yeah.
So when I would work with people who are like super traditional in their eating habits, I'd struggle a little bit, and I'd have to do my own research and be like, right, well, what is this? What do you like? I'd look at food diaries. I'd have to be like, all right, well, what is this food? What is it? Where does it come from? What are what's the composition of it all? And then trying to explain that to people and say, look, this might be the way that you've always eaten and the way your parents have always eaten, but this is the reason that is keeping you the way you are. People don't like that,
So you got a bit of not backlash, was it resistance of them changing their ways?
Yeah, every client has resistance. Yeah.
So then do you feel that you probably tapping into a bit more of your mind? Like, do you tapping into the mindset aspect of things? How do you overcome that? Because if someone says, I'm not too sure about changing that, how do you deal with it?
I would say, well, look, what would be, this is literally what I would say. I would say, what would be a result that you'd be happy with in 10 weeks time? And they would say, I want to lose this much weight. And I'd say, right, well, in order for you to do that, you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z. So
you're focused on the end goal.
Well, I position it as the end goal. So I say, you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z for the majority of the next 10 weeks to get to that point. Out of those things, what are you not willing to do? And they say, I'm not willing to give this up. I'm not willing to go to the gym. I'm not, whatever it is, Yep. But I'm super willing to go for a walk every day. And I'm saying, well, great. Look, let's start there. You're not going to get there unless you do the rest of it, but you're starting here, and the goal. And for me, it's not to get you there in 10 weeks. It's to get you there at some point, or at least for you to understand what you need to do to get there. Yeah.
So it's the educational aspect of things and making sure and look, I'm not, for people that know me, that I have an absolute love-hate relationship with the gym. And I've only just, been recently diagnosed with ADHD, and I've come to realize that whole noise in the gym with the music playing, and, having to focus on my reps and focus on what exercise I need to do. I'm just at the moment in the time of career that I am, I'm not focused on understanding what exercise I need to do to improve myself. But I almost want it a done for you thing. So it's not as if I want someone there to lift it for me, but I almost want it to have it laid out so I don't have to do the thinking. So there must be multiple people in my position thinking, oh my God, I've got to go to the gym. It's quite a daunting place. You've got people in there that are extremely well knowledged. They know exactly what they're doing and they look great, and they seem to be doing these exercises extremely well. How did you get someone that never stepped foot in the gym? What did you do? What was your mindset, and what was your advice to them to break through to build their confidence to stepping in there?
That's a great question, because it really depends on the person. Yeah. So some people would say, I really want to go to the gym, but I'm not confident enough to go. And then I'd say, well, if you really want to go, then go. And if you feel like you shouldn't be there after 5 minutes, then leave. Yeah. Just try it, because once you're there, you probably will want to stay. Yeah. But then there was other people who would say, like, who were seriously just not confident, and I'd be worried they're going to have like a panic attack if they go. Yeah. So then I'd say, look, don't even bother. Yeah. There's so many things we can do outside of the gym. Like the gym, I reckon, is like, it's top 5, but it's definitely not top 3, and remember, I'm focusing on weight loss for clients. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's so many things we can do outside of the gym to build your confidence, so that when you actually feel confident enough to go, you're not going to be worried. You're still going to be worried about people looking at you and what you're doing, but it's not going to be like the number one thing there. So like I would tell them like, well, you can lose 5 kilos without stepping foot in the gym. We just got to do all this nutrition stuff. You know, you can work on your fitness at home. We can do a home workout with just body weight because you've never exercised before. It's going to have an effect. You can go on a walks, you know? So like there were all these things like where, because I was always big on like, if you're the client, you're paying me good money to work with me and you're saying you don't want to do something, you ain't going to do it. Yeah. Because like I can't force you to do something, and I sure as shit can't change your mind if you already say you don't want to do it.
You got to be already in that right frame of mind, haven't you?
Exactly.
Wanting to take that first step.
Exactly.
Right?
Like it's got to already be within you, and I can help bring it out of you, but I can't put it there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one of the quotes, and maybe you can help me understand a little bit more about it, but you live by the quote of confidence beats intelligence.
Yeah.
And embarrassment is the cost of entry.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What
Yeah.
does that mean to you?
I think I'm quite intelligent. Yeah.
96 ATAR,
Okay.
marks, whatever. Let's bring that one.
No, like I think I'm quite intelligent, but the reason why I don't want to do Instagram anymore is just a confidence thing. Like I don't like the way the fitness industry is online because it's all about how good you look, how good your clients look, the most beautiful photo and showing the beautiful moments only. Like I just don't like that because I know, like I can look at a coach's Instagram, like I know that's not you. Like I've seen you in the gym, that's not what you look like, you know? So when I was posting every day, sometimes twice a day, making content, spending more hours making content than I was coaching, I was like, what am I doing this for? Like, what's the point? So then I realized, I was like, look, to do well in this industry at least, and I think to do well in business as well, like I'm sure in business, you've met people who are not the sharpest tools in the shed, but doing really, really, really well because they're just super confident in what they are doing, you know? So the younger me was like, oh, the smarter I am, the better. And the older me is like, look, yeah, of course you need to be a certain level, but it's confidence that's going to carry you. It's confidence that's going to propagate the intelligence that you have. And then the next one was, what was the next one you said?
The next one that you quote said is embarrassment is the cost of entry.
Yeah, so that was a great one. So when I started coaching and I started posting on Instagram, and I remember I will never forget the first video I put on Instagram, and it was my webcam on my desk, and it was like a 4-minute speaking to the camera on muscle hypertrophy. Yeah, how would that go down?
Muscle what?
Like muscle growth. Yeah.
Oh, muscle growth.
Oh, yeah.
Let's keep simple words here.
Yeah. But I called it muscle hypertrophy. Yeah. So you see the issues already.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I remember posting that, and I posted it, and as soon as it uploaded, phone airplane mode, threw it to the side of my bed, and I just went out. I was like, look, and I was so embarrassed to go on Instagram after that. And then every video I posted, I was like less and less embarrassed to a point where I was like doing silly shit on, like, obviously now I'm doing silly shit on camera as well. Like just doing whatever. So, and then coaches would ask me, like when I was in the mentorship, I was like helping other coaches as well, like coaches like more in the infancy than me. And they would ask me, like, oh, but I can't do that. And I'm like, well, look, your first of everything's going to be awful. You have to just accept that and get it over and done with. Because, and then another one I heard that kind of resonates into that was like, you're scared of being told no, but what if I said you're 20 no's away from a yes? Then you're going to run out and try and get all those 20 no's. You know?
I love that one.
Yeah. So
I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. That's great because I think you need to face the no's.
Exactly.
But I think that's the difference between someone that's going to accept the no's and go and chase the next no.
That's it.
Because it's disheartening when you do get a no. I think we're tuned to be, okay, I'm not good enough, I'll move on to the next thing, or I'm not going to touch that, and it breaks you down.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But I personally, a no for me fuels my fire. Like that's fuel for me. When someone says no, or someone says that's not good enough, or there's a problem in the system, that fuels me so much to try and problem solve exactly what needs to be done to move it forward to the next, or to get the yes, or to get the result that you need, right? And that takes a lot of resilience, and you just have to be almost blinkered and forget about everything that's happening and just be absolutely in your own lane. And I think I believe that on social media at the moment, there's so much noise, whichever industry you're in, and it gets very, very confusing as to which direction you need to go in whatever industry you're in, right? But if you stay blinkered and just staying absolutely in your own lane and absorb only the information you believe is going to elevate or scale your business, then absorb it. All the other stuff, just leave it to the side. So, but it's just having that filter and trying to understand that, right? So you've gone from PT and, you know, going through those struggles with trying to educate, you know, the Southeastern, so what's that? South Asian market with the food education aspect of things, right? You then realize that that's probably not something you want to move on to or take through as your career for the rest of your life. You're now running roller smart shutters.
That's it, yeah.
That's a massive shift from PT to now running a business that installs roller shutters. And by the way, extremely good quality stuff, right? But the operations, tell me a bit more about that. Are you fully involved now?
Yeah, fully.
So Dad has taken a step back?
He's what I say his role is chief delegator.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's a
chief delegate. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? How did that come about?
When I was coaching online and I was working with upwards of 40 clients, and I struggled to keep track of everyone. Yeah. Because as a client, you have one coach, but as a coach, obviously you've got multiple clients. So it's like keeping track of what you've said to who. So I would look at what other coaches use as like their systems to keep track of everything. And I was like, right, this doesn't seem too hard. So I watched a few YouTube videos. I built one out for myself where it was like a CRM type thing where, you know, your leads would come in. If you converted them as a client, they would go across to your client's page. And then their check-in details would come in. You could write notes and their programs and whatnot would all be in the one spot. So then I was like, one day I was a bit bored at home, and I was like, Dad, what do you do for your leads? You know? And he whips out this one spreadsheet that's been going since 2019.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit. And then I realized, I was like, mate, you're in your 60s. Of course, that's what you're going to do. Like, you don't really, you know what I mean? You don't know what else to do.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I said, look, like, let me come in on the weekend one day. Let me have a look at what you're doing and see what we can do. So then I implemented something similar there. And then I was like, this was actually way more interesting than telling clients about calorie deficit. And
what was more interesting? The data, to organize the data and make it more efficient? What part was interesting to you?
Building the system.
Yeah,
building the system. So, and because then it's like, it's the same thing, but it's a completely different industry, but it's fundamentally the same thing. The principles are the same, you know, acquiring the lead and qualifying and getting the correct data and then moving them across. It's the same as what I would do in coaching, but it's just a different product, a different clientele. So I started doing that, and then while I was there, I'm a bit nosy, so I'd be like, what are you doing there? What's that about? You know? And then I'd be like, well, that's like that's not a very good way of doing this. We can do this a lot faster. You know, you're entering things in 3 or 4 times.
And how did your dad take that initially? Was he a bit resistant? Did he give you a bit of resistance, or was he like, no, just go and do it?
He was very happy. I think he would have always wanted me, or like, I've got a brother and sister, he would have always wanted us to work in the family business, but I was always like, no, I would do my own thing. Mm-hmm. And you know, they've been so supportive, like leaving school at year 10, like as a brown guy, you get in a lot of trouble. So they were very supportive the whole time of everything I've done, everything I wanted to pursue, which is great. So then when I was actually wanting to come and help out, he's quite happy. So yeah, then it was just like one project after another there, just doing it on the weekends. Then I started coming in for like 1 day a week to kind of see how it's running day to day with the staff there. 1 day a week, went to 3 days a week, went to now 5 days a week, went to, you know, now it's like just fully immersed in it, involved every day.
So what systems do you have now in place, apart from, I presume that Excel spreadsheet is now gone?
It's dead, yeah. It's dead. Rest in peace to the spreadsheet, yeah.
So what sort of systems have you got up and running at the moment?
What do you mean, like specific, like text?
So in regards to how you acquire your leads, and are you using sort of any kind of AI to help you automate all of that?
We're not using AI just yet. Like in the use, like in the creation of it, I use various different just to like help. Like ChatGPT is a godsend. You know, it's like you're an employee for $20 a month. I don't mind it whatsoever. Essentially, all of the leads from like the Google ads, Facebook website, they all come in one spot. So then when admin comes in to call the leads, they're not checking 3 or 4 different places, you know, they're all in the one spot. Then all the progress of each job is in the same spot, so they know if it's like someone who needs to go and have a quote done, or if someone who's already been quoted needs to be followed up with. Like, again, it's all very easy to see, like visually. And then the production side of things, so it's like minimizing wastage of product, the efficiency of like how many shutters can we produce in a day versus now, you know, is scaled up. And then it's just the classic marketing side of things, like what streams of income have we got before it was mainly retail. And then it's like, well, retail, wholesale, and commercial, all options, you know? So then it's trying to grow those things. And then I realized quite quickly that's not stuff I can do at night at home in my desk. I've got to go out and build connections for those things,
That's
you know?
right.
So that's kind of where I'm at more at the moment, you know? So
So you're networking a lot more now and
definitely,
try and make it, you know, build relationships. History repeats, right? That street in London, hardware store, everyone knows you on that hardware store street.
maybe. Yeah.
And now you're out there trying to build your connections, and
Yeah.
it'll be that's Nian for Roller Shutter.
Well, yeah. I mean, I try not to look too far ahead, you know? Like I really try not to look more than like the next 2 years.
Okay.
Because I used to worry like, oh, what am I going to do in the future? And now I'm like, mate, when does it ever go to plan? Don't worry about it. So I look at it now. It's like, look, this is great, and I can give it my absolute all until it gets to a point like coaching where I'm like, you know, I'm just not feeling this anymore. Or something new piques my interest. But the goal is to get it to a point where I don't need to be in there every day. And that's the goal. That was the goal with online coaching as well. It's like it was almost at a point where I just have to do my check-ins and like my client interactions, but everything else was kind of not automated, but almost done by itself.
Yep.
Very little input. Loads of input, but very little like spending time like editing videos and, you know, making content and posting content. But that's kind of the overall goal, is to get it to a point where it's like, if I'm there every day, it's because I want to be there, not because I have to be there.
I love that.
Yeah.
You mentioned about AI and ChatGPT.
Yeah.
As a business owner, and you're saying you don't mind paying you $20 a month to have an assistant to help you figure things out.
Yeah.
I use it religiously every single day.
Yeah,
I
same.
talk to it. She helps me break down my tasks for the day. She reasons with me.
It's a she, is it?
Yeah, it's a she.
It's not
yes.
me anymore.
No,
Okay.
no, she's from the UK. She's got the English accent. So she gives me, she helps me out, categorize my day. She really reasons with potential problems within the business and gives me solutions or ideas that I didn't really think about. And
Yeah.
I absolutely love the GPT AI aspect of things. Coming back to my question about AI to you as a business owner, how do you think AI is going to potentially move your business forward?
Roller shutters.
Yes, roller shutters.
That's a good question.
Because it's very manual.
It's very manual.
So manual you can't really necessarily at the moment replace with AI,
No.
right? But are you thinking you're saying that, like, you know, you want this to be potentially automated? That's what I'm feeling, especially the front end stuff. Leads come in, inquiries, you know, they fill out the application for whatever it might be. Do you think there's a space for your industry for AI to sit in and to help you get to that sort of freedom of where you don't have to do all this admin?
Yeah, well, I mean, whether it's through automation or just employing people, you know, I think as a principle, I'd rather employ a person.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, like, you can use AI to like answer phones and have like phone conversations.
You can.
with
I know that. Yep.
now. Yeah. So
Yep.
like that's something I've definitely investigated, but it's not something I want to do. I want my customers to speak to a person. Sending follow-ups, like, again, like you can have SMS conversations with an AI that you don't really, like, as a customer, you wouldn't know it's an AI. And they don't sleep, you know, they don't take a break. So it's like there's plenty of things in the front end that you could do. I'm more interested like the past like month or so in the production side of things.
Okay.
So it's like how much product is being used, because obviously every shutter we build is a custom size. Yeah, there's no like stock standard, it's all custom. So that means the materials that get used is different for each shutter and each job. That can lead to a fair bit of wastage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so then when you look at it, like, you know, if you're wasting 25% of the stock you buy, that's a sunk cost. You know, you need to try and minimize that as much as possible. So that's probably the first place I am looking to implement some sort of, whether it's purely AI or just AI driven like type system,
to suggest the best way to maximize the materials that you need without the less wastage you have, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a smart move, because then you're able to obviously maximize your profits.
Exactly.
And then the wastage, you know, you're not wasting as much, and potentially there might be less human error.
Oh yeah, you'd hope so. But then also, like, even a step back from AI, just automation. You know, like automation was huge when that's mainly the first thing I did when I started there, was kind of automate through logic, not through AI, but the process of like when a lead comes through, which list do they go into? Once they get the quote, once we quote them, how do they get the quote sent? How do we follow up with them? You know?
Do you have any particular programs you're using at the moment?
Well, I use Zapier. That's the main one that I'll use.
I've just got into Zapier.
Oh,
I've only just got into it.
I can,
as we speak right now, I've got about 3 emails that come through, and it's already drafted my emails for me.
there you go.
So it's already in my drafts box, and I can just double check it, and then off it goes.
It's send. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Zapier, honestly, Zapier.
So the whole system runs Zapier. It's Zapier.
Incredible.
Yeah. So Zapier does most of it, but it ties in like your Gmail and your website leads and your Google Ads leads. Like it ties all them together. Probably could implement AI in that, but again, like I'm also very like wary of, we don't need to change something if it doesn't need changing just yet.
I'm all for that one.
Yeah.
I'm all for that. If things are not broken, then why change it? I think there's with my sort of question there about AI is it necessary for you to stay up to date with the latest AI technology, or is it you're in a safe spot where you can just continue what you're doing, but just keep an eye on it? Because AI is changing every 2 weeks at the moment.
Yeah.
And, with updates with whether you're using DeepSeek or ChatGPT, they're just challenging each other every single time. And, only just sort of, from the day of this recording to about 5 days ago, ChatGPT released the first, that AI photo generator. And I tested it. It's incredible. Like you could almost utilize that to kind of go take a photo of your customer's window and then superimpose what that shutter's going to look like for them directly. That could potentially, secure that sale even better, because people might not, they're going to go, oh, roller shutter, yeah, no problem. You show them pictures of what it looks like on other homes. But if you could generate it actually to make it look like you can see on your home, that could have a huge benefit, and that could probably convert more sales because you're selling it. This is what it's going to look like, and it's done within seconds.
That's my weekend task now. Thank you for putting that idea in my head.
There you go. So no, but that's one of the things, and I'm all for like utilizing the tools that will help convert that sale.
That's it,
and support the growth of the business. Because if there's that massive argument at the moment, there's like graphics designers are losing their jobs, and there's a huge backlash that like you don't need a graphics designer to create an ad for Meta ads anymore. But I believe that's not true, because I believe that like you can use AI as a absolute core fundamental to like get you started. And I still think you need a human eye, a human expert to realize, okay, well, the copy's not quite well. Or, the AI will know your audience to a certain point, but it's only when you have a conversation like this that you realize the emotion that audience is actually giving you. And I don't think that AI is quite there yet with understanding your target audience's emotion, or what the problems they might exactly be facing. It will know it as a data entry, but it might not know from a conversation. And I think that like we see people's body language, and I read so much into people's body language, and to me that's also just important, because if you understand your customer's body language and the way they're standing, and if they're standing more confident or they're standing shy, AI can't see that. You might speak really confidently, but their body language might be completely different.
Yeah.
So that's where I believe that you need an expert to really fine tune that last sort of 10% to making sure that gets over the line.
10%, like AI. One of the first things I learned when I started like playing around with AI is it's 10-80-10. It's not 100%. It's 10-80-10. Like you do the first 10% and establish that groundwork, then it's going to do the heavy lifting for you, and that you need that personal final 10%.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Then there's a bit of a tradition on this podcast that when we sort of come towards an end, you've given us a wonderful insight as to where you grew up, your schooling, your online business, and now onto your the roller shutter business that you're doing. And in 2 years' time, God knows where you're going to be, because you might have AI running the whole thing or whatever it might be, but we don't know where you're going to be in 2 years' time. But one of the things we want to be able to bring to Brain Breaks is for you to set a challenge to the listeners or viewers. What is one thing that you would challenge a listener or viewer that they do to get them started as an entrepreneur, or to kickstart their business? And then what we do with that is you can set them a challenge, and then they can, whoever's listening, watching, they can then send you that challenge through your social channels, which will leave in the link below. Is there anything in particular that you would challenge any listeners?
That is a brilliant question. I like that question a lot. So a challenge I'd give to people wanting to start a business or, like grow their entrepreneurial like business side of things. Okay. I don't know if this is a challenge or if it's just advice.
That's for either or.
Okay. I will challenge you to be as authentically yourself as you possibly can. I will challenge you to notice when you have the urge to do something or try something, to notice the thought in your head that says, well, so-and-so hasn't done it, or so-and-so has done this. And that's my challenge, to try and notice that dialogue in your mind. Because when you start to notice that, you realize how much of like your authentic idea, and not all of your ideas are going to be great, but it's more likely that an authentic idea is going to do well for you than looking at what someone else has done. I would challenge the listeners to be as authentically themselves as they possibly can. I don't know how we can categorize that, but yeah.
Well, they can drop you a DM. They can, reach out to you and then sort of maybe ask you for a little bit more guidance in regards to that challenge or that piece of advice. But I think that's absolutely brilliant. And I think that resonates super well with how social media at the moment is all about authenticity. Hence why I'm jumping in front of the camera, doing brain breaks. People want to know a bit more about, other people that I talk to on a daily basis. It's about being authentic, and you can't get more authentic than actually recording a conversation and we're just having a chat, like having a brain break, i.e. the whole purpose of it was that you're working, let's have a brain break because your brain is hurting, right? So we just we've been chatting for about an hour. We just have this is our hour lunch chit chat, and then we go back to work. So Nian, thank you so much for passing on that challenge or advice to the listeners and viewers. And honestly, thank you so much for coming on here. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's so good to know you on a bit more of a deeper level.
Yeah, I've loved it. It's been I'll say this for people listening, I before I did this, I had to do a little form, to go through all my details. And I messaged Lloyd after I did it. I was like, mate, that was almost like therapy for me, because I was like, I've done podcasts before, but it's like how to lose weight in 6 weeks. It's not like, all right, where did you grow up and how does it affect you now? Like, it was phenomenal. And then coming to speak from this perspective, I've absolutely loved it. Yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Brilliant. Thank you, sir.